Dr. Travis Rose here. We're going to be going over the proper way to stretch out your hip flexors. Now, tight hip flexors can be an issue with some knee discomfort, hip discomfort, also some low back pain. So first, we're going to demonstrate the improper way to do a hip flexor stretch that I see a lot of at the gyms, and a lot of times patients will show me this is how they've been stretching their hips, and we're going to talk about why that's actually not so good in terms of stretching out the hip flexor. So go ahead, Nick, and shift forward into a hip flexor stretch here. So what I see a lot of is patients will shift their weight forward and they're going to arch back through the stretch to try to increase that stretch in the front of the thigh. So yes, you do get a pretty good stretch of the hip flexor, but you're also sacrificing the joints and some of the musculature in the lower back. Go ahead and come out of that stretch. So if you're dealing with back pain and you were told you have tight hip flexors, if you continue to stretch that way, you're going to just further cause irritation of the lower back, and it's not going to help with the healing of the lower back pain. So what we're going to do instead here is, before we even get into the stretch, we're going to talk about supporting the back and the hips so that then we're not going to get any compression of the lower back. So the first thing I'm going to have you do is just tighten your core generally, just nice and tight around the torso here. On the side that we're going to stretch, you're going to contract the gluteal muscles. And now as one unit, you're going to just shift your body forward until you develop a stretch on the front of the thigh. So we're keeping the back nice and straight, hips in a good position, so there's no low back irritation, and just a good stretch of the hip flexor in front of the hip. Now, if we want to target a little bit further up and get some of the proximal hip flexor fibers, we're going to bring this arm up towards the ceiling like that. And again, keeping the torso relatively straight, but you're going to start bending away from the side you're stretching, and then you should feel more of a hip flexor stretch up in the lower abdomen. So is that where you feel it there?
Yep.
Okay. So then you'll do this on both sides to address the hip flexor tightness on both sides to decompress the lower back. Okay, come on out of that.